Kia ora and welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. I'm Ross Karl. Joining me, I have James Parsons and Bryn down in, well, maybe Titletown, unless the Chiefs go and take it, for another episode of Aotearoa Rugby Pod. This week, of course, it's final time, so let's get super hyped for this. You're hyped because you know the Chiefs are going to win this thing, all right?
Oh, I don't know about that. I know they'll give it a fair old nudge. Statistically, if you look at it, they're going down there probably not favourites. I hate to break it to you, Bryn, but you're first in every column. Points for, points against, you're first and they're fifth, believe it or not. So they're fighters. I think that's the biggest thing to take out of it, is they will fight everything, but the key areas we know, if they can match it set piece and they can bring that lightning quick ball that they've seen at breakdown and win that Lucy battle, and then it's that sort of style of play, how they use Damien will be key, will give themselves the best opportunity to do the business down there.
So as favourites, as heavy, strong favourites, Bryn.
$1.01 favourites.
No underdog title going to you guys. What kind of week has it been? Do you guys approach a week like a final very much in routine?
Oh, look, it is another week, and I think it's more so just really trying to embrace it. Like, we've been fortunate enough to be in a few finals, so I guess having an understanding of what it looks like, it's not new to us. So we can bank on that experience around what a normal week looks like, and I guess for us, it's an excitement. It's exciting. It's an exciting time for us to have it at home again. We talked about in the last podcast around how important it is for us to be at home, and having that factor is always great, and to be able to play in front of our family and our friends. So, we're looking forward to it. We're probably just going to try to build the week nicely. Again, when it is a final, there's a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm, but again, you don't want to be playing your final too early in the week. So, Razor leaders and us we've been driving the week pretty good, and we've got a pretty good plan in place around what that's going to look like, and hopefully that's going to be peaking come 7:05 in Christchurch, and hopefully -2 degrees.
This is only your fifth final in a row, which obviously is quite disappointing that it's such a short run of finals for you guys. Have you seen the approach to finals evolve over those 5 years? The way that you did it in that first year with Razor to the way you do it now?
They're pretty similar. I think they're pretty similar around what our week structure looks like, because again, we've been pretty lucky in the last four to be at home, so we've been pretty familiar around what our weeks look like, and have a pretty good understanding, again, what that looks like. Probably the only difference was when we went to South Africa in 2017. It was different. We went over to hostile environment, and didn't have the pleasures of being able to be at home and being able to have a normal week like we would when we were at home. So we're fortunate enough that, bar that Lions series, we've been pretty lucky that the last 4 times we've been at home for a final. So preparation-wise, it's the best. It's the best you get to be in your own bed. And I know obviously the Chiefs are in Hamilton, which isn't that far a flight, but those little things there are always comfortable come finals week. And again, when you get to play at home, it's a big thing, and it's a big thing for us. We really wanted to get that at the start of the competition, and we've got to have that final at home.
When do you think he calls the tattoo artist for the latest description?
You probably brought him in on Saturday for that training run you did Saturday. Did you get him in just to scribe one up?
No tattoos there.
Okay.
It was a beautiful day in Christchurch though, mate.
How did that training session go? Was it sharp?
It was just nice to get back into rhythm, and I think taking, like we talked about last time, coming out of the bye against the Highlanders, we're probably a little bit off, and so and it was a short week, but I guess for us, anytime you get to touch the ball and really get to fine-tune things and get a head start on the week, it's probably set us up really nice where we came in today, which is usually our day one. Technically, it's our day one, but we were able to get a few things in that Saturday session that we probably weren't able to in a normal week. So I guess it's just a head start for us, and then again we'll be able to taper off at the back end of the week, knowing that we've done all the week we need to.
How do you go around the tattoo if you go this final, you win this final and the Trans-Tasman, and it's 2 titles in 1 year? Does that make it a tough scenario, or do you just do one for one each, or just one for the 2, or how do you go about that?
Is that a serious question? Because usually you ask it quite seriously and you're laughing. So is that a genuine question? Or?
Okay, and just one more. Have you packed your ski goggles for this year?
It is quite cold in Christchurch, but no, there's no ski goggles.
Okay.
No ski goggles at the moment, mate. So hopefully we could use them. Hopefully, but again.
That's why Ross runs this.
I was waiting to ask you to pack the bubble wrap for the trophy, but
I won't go there.
No, that's not funny. Now, last week we spoke about the fact that the Chiefs might or might not rest all of their team for that game last weekend. They ended up resting every man and his dog and making positional changes left, right and centre. Bryn, do you think that has helped them preparing for you guys, or do you think that that was a move that might, make them a little less, I suppose, break their momentum that they'd built up?
I'll probably find out Saturday at probably 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, if that's the right decision. But no, I think it's two really good things that they did. A lot of guys that have played a lot of minutes had a rest week and were able to refresh and been able to get away from rugby. We don't know what their week looked like, but refreshing and not being able to be in the 23, it's mentally not as draining, and you can be refreshed. And then it's a great opportunity for all those young men that were able to play on the weekend. Like, even though they sent a lot of guys that hadn't played a lot of rugby, they took the Blues to the nth degree around how close that was. And if it wasn't for the Blues set piece, their scrum being real dominant at probably last 10, 15 minutes, the game was on. So I think it sets them up really well. Again, you don't need any added motivation for a final. And a lot of those boys, we wanted to play well in the final. And so, the enthusiasm and motivation levels will be there. But I think their players were able to get rested, the guys that had played a lot of minutes, and then the whole of their squad were able to play that game. And then what that's going to do is going to be able to motivate them to be able to play, if they're not playing in their reserves group, to be able to set them up training against them this week, whether they want to be, the Crusaders, the non-23 playing will be able to have a spring in their step due to being able to play some minutes, and played pretty well on the weekend as well.
Where do you see the key matchups?
For me, I really think it's up front. I think if they can set the platform, I think that's been their biggest turning point, the Chiefs, which has allowed them to play their style and keep to that style. They've looked to build score pressure early, so they've gone for their threes and built that scoreboard pressure, and then out of the halftime break, they've come out and as a pack, as an 8 up front, they've looked to blow teams away around that breakdown area and play fast and play that lightning quick ball. And I think Bryn alluded to it last time they played at Hamilton. It was that sort of 10 minutes where you guys had to make a number of tackles to about 7 of their tackles, and that was the key time, and they've done that a lot. So I think it's that up-front battle is crucial, because we know that the set piece is where the Crusaders have been dominant, and that's where they'll go to if they become under pressure. So if they can match them there and then go to that dominance where they've been dominant and where they've turned their season around is around that breakdown and getting that lightning quick ball. So that's crucial. So the type 5 up front, and then the loosies around the breakdown area, and then where they play Damien McKenzie. Obviously, I think it worked really well with him at 10 and then going to 15 late, and then bring someone like Bryn on late in the game. He's got that calm composure, big game mentality, and can play a little bit ball in front, that territory battle if the game's close, and can put you in the right parts of the field, but also allows someone like Damien to inject himself from the back against tiring forwards. So I think it was a right plan, and it worked for them, although it was a tight contest. So do they revert back to playing Damien at 10, or do they start Bryn at 10 and put Damien to fullback? So that's probably the key combination. Everyone else, I think, picks themselves.
Well, what do you expect them to do there?
Well, yeah, it's tough, because I think they've done it so well. I think when they've had Damo at 10, starting at 10, we've talked about it a lot around his game management's been world class, and then you've always got to think of him on defence when he can attack the line, because you just know with ball in hand he can really test your defence. So, if he does play, then we've got to be on for not just that probably 50 to 80 minute period when he is at 10. You've got to be able to be on that the whole game until they bring in Bryn or the Caleb Truss, or they go with Bryn Gatlin, who fits in really nicely in finals footy. Great decision maker around his kicking, especially it could be a little bit wet with a bit of dew at night in Christchurch, which could lead into them being a lot better in that respect. And then you're able to bring Damo into the game at 10 in that kind of 30-minute phase where he's done in the past, where there's tiring defenders. We've got to be tested. We're going to be tested in that kind of period of play with reserves coming on, and our big boys have been working. So whichever way they do go, they've proven that they've done it enough this season. With whatever direction they do go, they've got both ways of winning footy games.
Has the review this week been based around that Hamilton match for you guys? Is that the game that you're reviewing, or is it a clean slate?
You take little trends around, little learnings. You definitely do. So you do concentrate on traits and trends around what they do, like we've talked about with Damo or whatever the traits that they do have. But at the same time, we've just been concentrating on ourselves and being able to get things right with us. Jibber's brought up some pretty important points that we want to be pretty good there on the weekend, whether it be defensively breakdown or shutting down certain players. It's going to be pretty crucial for us on the weekend. So we do have a little bit. We've been fortunate enough that we have played the Chiefs twice this year, so we kind of get a pretty good idea what their DNA is, and I guess can understand what they might do. But again, they might change things, and we might have just to adapt on the run. But again, we still want to concentrate on ourselves, and we've got hopefully a plan in place which we think is going to be able to execute really well and put them under pressure.
It's going to be an interesting game, because at the start of the year, this was not the game that anyone was picking as the final, really.
No, and I'll actually be interested in the Crusaders' tactics. I know Bryn can't answer this, but I felt like their contestable kicking game was showing a little bit more against the Blues in an afternoon fixture, and then with due night game, and we've seen it so often, a little bit of a rolling maul and the 9 putting it up for guys like George Bridge and Sevu chasing and looking to get that ball back, or even going back to Richie and him putting one up around that in between the two 40s, even maybe closer in their attacking zone. So I think that potentially they may look to use their contestable kicking game a little bit more. There was definitely a shift of mindset around that. Maybe it might have just been a tactic to play against the Blues, but I think it would be something that they could use as a weapon, again, just to get their balance of attack on a dewy night in Christchurch, to, one, look to get the ball back, but if not, put the skill set of the Chiefs back 3 under pressure.
Historically, it's been a good fallback for you guys.
Yeah, it has, and I think having Bridgie back has been massive for us, and especially with him in the air as a 9. It doesn't matter how good your kicks are; it's only as good as how your chases are. And George and Sevu probably in the last 2 weeks have been really world class in that. So again, if it gets into a situation where we need to do that, George is great in the air and Sevu as well. So it would all be revealed on the weekend.
This episode of the Aotearoa Rugby Pod is brought to you by Manscaped, the most trusted shaver for below the belt grooming in the entire world. Over 2 million people trust this product to make sure that they're safe and in good, well, what are they down there? Clean. Tidy?
Crisp,
something along those lines. If you're on the market to get this kind of product, make sure that you're nice and clean downstairs. You get 20% off and free shipping if you go to manscaped.com/rugby. And that goes to USA, Canada, New Zealand, UK, wherever you can go. So what do you got this week for your Manscaped hairy moment?
For me, it was the Blues Chiefs game when they were dealing with the accidental offside with the Chiefs try, and there was about 1 million water boys trying to coach the ref into a decision. I think David Hill was out there, another water boy, I think Tana was there, and it was quite entertaining watching because they were quite distressed about the decision. So for me, it was quite a hairy moment for the ref. That's all I got for you.
What about you, Bryn?
Mine goes to my old mate, unfortunately, Billy Harmon, for probably having how Ross and Dripper, how much I love referrals. Obviously getting it wrong with Dane Coles, and they were 17-7 up at that time and had the ball in play, and obviously Coles working his magic and got the penalty, and then Billy's decided to try and get a penalty with the referral, and hasn't worked out for him. So I feel for my old mate, old Crusader mate and Maldi's mate, but yeah, not a great decision, big fella. Look forward to seeing you drink probably a box of Spates with the boys in a couple of hours.
Surely a punishment for that.
He's going to be buying Spades for all the boys for a long time.
It is a very hairy moment.
Yeah. Yeah, poor old Billy Harmon. It cost a try. He didn't see that coming, did he?
Wow, it was quite a turning moment.
Yeah.
If you think about it, the crucial score.
Yeah, it could have been 50 metres down the other way, and instead they're behind the post.
Yeah.
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 I love you, Billy, mate. I love you, mate. I love you.
He needs to get himself some Manscaped products. That can be his only close shave / hairy moment. To smooth things over. Yeah. You've done this before.
I don't mind a wee pun.
Now, make sure you get your Manscaped product. Get onto the peak hygiene plan. Lasts for 3 months. Can update all your little bits of equipment. You'll be well looked after for a long period of time. Manscaped.com. Make sure you get the best ball trimmer on the planet. What you guys did reveal this week is Pablo Matera, like, as if you weren't good enough already.
Yeah, it's a great signing, isn't it? Yeah, we're pretty fortunate to be able to get a player of that caliber, especially playing Super Rugby. It's definitely a razor. It's a razor signing. He likes to think outside the box, and I think Digby Ioane was another one that came in 2017, and Roger, Ronan O'Gara as a coaching, and Mark Jones as well, just thinks outside the box. So for us, we're going to be really excited to get him next year. And he's a world class player. We can only look at those pitches that he played when he played against the All Blacks. Him showing I guess in Māori terms you've got mana, but he shows that Argentinian flair and energy and enthusiasm. So it's going to be able to have a caliber of player who's going to be in our environment. And again, it's not only going to be great to have him as a player, but for the young guys coming through, having a player like that who can add knowledge to our group, it's only going to benefit us moving forward.
Yeah, what I like about it is, so often you've spoken on this, Bryn, in your reviews, is around that breakdown and improving that breakdown area. A guy like him, with the young guys in your group, he can only, enhance their ability to improve in that area. And when he steps on the field, he is automatically going to improve that area. And he can play 6, 7 and 8, I believe. I know he doesn't. He roams between probably 6 and 7 for Argentina, but mainly it's 6, but they play sort of like for like, him and Crema. So I think he can play all three because of how well Ethan Blackett is going. Like, it'd be hard to push him out of that 6th spot if he continues that form. And then Tom Christie's really sharp at 7 as well, and he's unfortunately injured at the moment, and Sione Havili's coming through there, so there's good competition for him to come into as well. You've got Cullen Grace, haven't even mentioned him.
Yeah.
Douglas, so he's coming into a competitive area, but one that he'll enhance and grow as well, and then getting him on the field and whatever position is key. And he says it's a razor signing. I think that ability to play all 3 positions is just so powerful and important because he's good over the ball, because he's a good carrier, because he's abrasive, he's good in the line out. He just covers all aspects needed in an international signing because you can only have a few of them in your squad.
You made an interesting point.
I think just on that as well, if we continue to keep playing Super Rugby Aotearoa, I look at our loose forward shares around having injuries throughout the year, and that just adding that depth, like you said. Ethan was out for a couple of weeks with his neck injury. Karl was out for a week. Tom Sanders was out for a long period of time. So anytime you can add depth in that kind of position, especially if we continue to play this crash and bash, high tempo Super Rugby Aotearoa, adding a guy like that, yes, again, he's world class, but anytime you can just keep adding depth, especially into the loosest position, I think it's going to be massive moving forward.
It's an interesting thing because there are so many good loose forwards around the country. To be looking outside the box in that position, I suppose, is something that no one saw coming because, we talk about just your team. That list is long, even without Pablo Matera. So I think that it really took people by surprise.
Yeah, yes and no. I think he's a point of difference player, isn't he? He's not a typical style Lucy that we've got here, and he just brings something different. And I think Bryn's alluded to it. It's just Razor's style is about doing things differently, and he's seen something in him, and I think we all admire his style of play, and I think someone like him wants to come over here and test himself in our competition. I think it can only be a good thing.
On top of that, he's going to be in a country that's safe from COVID, a country that he can rely on, being able to settle in quite easily. He can play in front of crowds. There are all these things, the comfort of playing in New Zealand. Yeah, well, touch wood, obviously, but New Zealand rugby is at a point of real strength there for attracting world-class talent if they want to, because of the COVID-free environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we always have been, and only enhanced with the situation we've got ourselves in at the moment, having the ability to have crowds and play the tournaments we're in, and we're about to, I'll touch wood again, that we're about to go into a Trans-Tasman competition, which is pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, 100%. Now that Trans-Tasman competition is coming up on us really quickly. We've got to get past the final first. But, what are you looking forward to most about these Australian teams? Which ones in particular?
I'm looking forward to the change of styles and the adjustments our teams are going to have to make, and the adjustments their teams are going to have to make. And then also on top of that, just to add another layer, the adjustments we're going to have to make to different referees. And I know the rules are the same, but it's just a different style of referee from Australia to Kiwi referees, and it's always, they see things differently, and that's just the team that adjusts differently, the fastest and the smoothest to when travelling over to Australia. You know, you've got 5 games, and then the top 2 teams play the final, so you've got to get it right pretty quick. And they're playing some good quality football. You know, the Reds and the Brumbies are playing the final. But there's been parts and moments in this season where the Force have been exceptional. They tipped the Reds up when it wasn't expected. You know, they came from 21-5 down in that game to beat the Reds, and you know they just won't go away. The Force, they'll just keep coming. They've just got something about them. Richard Kahui mentioned he's compared them to the Chiefs. You know, they're a little bit of an unknown. You know, no one expects something of them. Their backs against the wall mentality, and that's what they're building, and they're really looking forward to the challenge. The Waratahs and the Rebels, I know, you know, the Rebels have just lost their coach. The Waratahs lost their coach earlier. There has been a little bit of a shift for the Waratahs. I think that, you know, and that's nothing, because I think, you know, Rob Penny's an exceptional coach. You know, he's been everywhere he's gone. He's had great success. But they are obviously starting to build something and improving. The Rebels, I think they maybe need to go back to how they started the comp. They started really challenging teams, and they had a I suppose a game plan of building scoreboard pressure. Some of the games they didn't even score tries, and you know they got 18 points just through the boot, and nearly bet the Reds and pushed the Brumbies the same way, and then maybe lost tack of that and tried to score and tried to change their mindset a little bit. So maybe reverting back to that style. I know Tamura really wanted Dave Vessels to stay, so it's a great opportunity for that group to, you know, galvanise and probably repay, you know, their coach in a way, because, you know, it's obviously put a lot of strain and pressure on him and his family. So he wants to spend some family time now, so a great way for them to get together, galvanise that group and take the challenge of Trans-Tasman. So there's plenty to like, plenty to expect, and those different styles are exciting for the viewers to get up for.
Bryn, is it a fresh start for the Waratahs and the Rebels, or is it an opportunity for it to get worse because they're playing Kiwi teams? Like, what do you say to these guys heading into a competition when it's already been going pretty badly, knowing that the teams you're coming up against are flat out going great?
Yeah, I think any time, you know, they're probably early doors in their Super Rugby AU. You know, we're probably out of the finals reckoning pretty early on, so, you know, I guess motivations are a little bit tough in that sense. But, you know, any times you get to start a new competition, and especially something new, playing New Zealand teams and knowing that, you know, we bring a different challenge and the ability to play against us, it brings a new form of motivation and enthusiasm and excitement. And it's no different for you think about the Highlanders and the Hurricanes. Again, you know, they would have loved to be playing in a Super Rugby final with Blues as well, and it's a clean slate going into next week. So, you know, those teams that they probably had ambitions to play in their home finals, again, to get the opportunity in a new competition against two different countries to be able to play for something bigger than just their own country. So, I think the excitement levels will go up, and again, it's a clean slate. And the only thing is that you obviously want to have to take the learnings that you had for maybe why you haven't been so successful. So Jip's alluded to that with the Rebels, and again, it'll be similar to what the Highlanders, the Hurricanes, and the Blues will be wanting moving forward. Because again, we're players, we're competitive, we want to be playing in finals. So whenever there's a trophy up for grabs, you want to be making adjustments. So it'll be a clean slate for, I think, not only the teams that you've talked about, but a lot of the other teams are going to be involved as well.
I think the Australian sides are well placed because there's no expectation. You know, maybe a little bit on the Reds and the Brumbies, a little bit, but I think a lot of expectation is going on the Kiwi sides, and that puts a lot of pressure for them to deliver, whereas the Aussies have got nothing to lose and everything to gain, especially the two teams you've spoken about, and maybe just chance their arm a little bit. You know I just sort of spoke about the Rebels taking their threes and going back to a philosophy that worked for them, but you know there's a lot to be gained for those teams in this Trans-Tasman, and a lot to be gained for the three teams that missed out on the final over here. And I think maybe the Hurricanes already took that step forward the other night. They almost threw the ball around a little bit, and it didn't stick, you know, every time in the first half, but in the second 40 it did. They stuck at it, and they were like, that's the game plan we've come here with. And you know, they had 24 clean breaks, 37 defenders beaten. Like, they came with a game plan and they stuck at it, and they were like, you know, we're not going to make a final. We're in front of our home fans. We're going to entertain. And it was one of the most entertaining games of the season. And the Highlanders had 22 defenders beaten, only 2 clean breaks, but 3 tries, and they left a few out there, and it was a great spectacle to watch. So I think teams have already started to try and move that way over here as well, that we're out of the final.
Going over to Australia is completely different. It's a different type of time that you're playing at. It's a different environment. I can imagine a Crusaders versus the Reds at Suncorp, with the amount of Kiwis that are over there. They haven't been able to watch Kiwi teams. We always have so much support, and Kiwis have so much support in Brisbane or whatever city it is in Australia. And so that kind of cauldron with the Reds there, I use it as an example. It's so tough to play there. You played at Suncorp, and it's just a different type of landscape. So that'll bring the excitement, and it'll bring more to what Kiwi teams aren't used to. A lot of guys haven't probably played in Australia, bar the All Blacks. So it's going to bring another opportunity for Australian teams to have an advantage. And for us, we're going to be able to have to try and adapt and understand that it's a little bit different going over to playing over in Australia.
With all of the injuries that happened during Super Rugby Aotearoa, and the fact that the competition ends up relatively close, and especially in the back half of the season where games were on a knife edge right through to the 70th, 75th minute most of the time, do the coaches take the same approach to this Trans-Tasman League, as in, win at all costs, or do we see a few more risks maybe in selecting young guys in the Trans-Tasman competition?
Oh, I think it's best team will get selected. I don't think it's young guys, old guys. It'll be the best team that's performing, the players that are giving their best throughout the weeks, giving themselves the best opportunity to perform on the weekend will get selected. I don't think coaches ever would look at it as giving opportunities. I think that's pre-season time. I think there's just too much at stake for all 5 clubs to perform and set the tone.
Even the Rebels and the Waratahs?
Yeah, I just think, we've just spoken about 2 coaches losing their jobs. Like, livelihoods are at stake, and we're in a performance-based business, and I don't think if you went in and said, I was just trialling a few things, that's probably not going to cut it. And I don't think players will start asking questions. They'll be like, I'm doing everything right, why am I not getting a go? We just want to give a young guy a go isn't going to cut it either. This is at the highest level. So I think the best players will get picked, and the beauty of is, the coaches will just be straight up and say, this is the reason why you're not getting picked. These are the areas you've got to work on. Show me you work on them, you'll get your opportunity.
Zahn Sullivan could be a guy, maybe get a little more game time.
Yeah.
He looked the goods.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he, the one thing I liked about Zahn, I was at the game and just watching him in the backfield, he was always looking for that kick space. So he's got a clear idea of balance of attack and not just running back and getting trapped. So he was looking for that kick space. I think he admit, his kicks weren't always as perfect as he'd like, but he was constantly looking to put that ball in front of his forwards, which is great. And he's got that that sort of first 5 game balance. He's tall, he's a big body, he's good in the air. He's got courage. He can really win those collisions. He's selfless. I think we saw that with his pass. He could have fallen over the try line, but he went for the option of giving it to AJ Lamb to score because it's guaranteed rather than chancing his arm and getting tackled. So, he ticks all the right boxes as a team man. He's got the skill set, he's got the build, he's got the maturity. But on the other side, we've got a guy that has worked his way back through injury. He's performed really well this year as well in Stevie P. So it creates competition, which is great during the week. Zahn did himself, he did himself all the favours, performed really well, and now it's up to the coaches to make a selection, but that puts the pressure on those 2 guys to perform during the week, so that selection issue becomes a tough one. But there was a lot to like about Zahn and his performance at fullback on the weekend.
He could be a good bench option.
He could be. He certainly could, because he can cover first 5 and potentially could even, he's big enough. He's a big boy, he's of that Geordie Barrett height. He's solid build. You also don't want to rush him into too many roles either. You don't want to rush that progression. You don't want to overload him. So, you've got to get that balance right as a coach as well. So there's plenty of things you've got to consider before putting these young men into positions that you don't want them to sink or swim sort of thing. Not that I think he would, but he's had a really good start, so you just want to get that balance right.
Guys like him and Ruben Love, we've got some young guys coming through who are very assured.
Yeah, I think Zahn had the ability that we've talked about a lot with, it seems, the day and age. If we look at Ruben Love, he can play 10-15. Zahn can play, well, he's originally is a 10, but can cover 15 and plays 15 now. So, yeah, I thought Ruben Love, we talked about it earlier, I think remember his first game, his first start, he had his ability, when he played against us, his ability to take the ball to the line. It just asks so many questions, and that's what Ruben Love's doing at the Hurricanes. So, I look at that try when he off the line out, was off a penalty from Dupes, who did a great, who I thought was outstanding. I think he had 3 or 4 turnovers in that game and was immense for them. But to get them in that position, and then Ruben just gets that ball, takes a nice step, beats the inside cover, and goes straight through, and just has that burst of pace. And so we've talked about a lot with Damo, Richie, 10s like that. They have the ability to be able to take the borderline and ask questions. It's really hard to defend. So, I don't know what the injury rate's going to be with Jackson Garner-Bishop, with how long he's out, but I really do hope the Hurricanes stick with Ruben Love and his development. And, he's going to have some times where he's not going to make the best decisions, but you just give that, as a young guy, you just let him be able to play and play free. And, you're going to get things like happen on the weekend when he set up that try on the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just think on top of that as well, he seems at best when he's playing eyes up footy. And he's just playing instinctive, because that was just, he obviously saw Ash had over chased, and then just that was like, there was a set move, and then he was like bang off his right and just took it. And that was similar to what you said when you played against him, when he was running flat and fast and just playing that eyes up footy is when he's at his best. So it's finding the balance between doing that and then sticking to the plan and getting that balance between, plan and eyes up will be his biggest growth. But I was at the game and watching it with Christian Cullen, and Cully said, he goes, not many boys can do that. He was impressed.
Yeah.
And we all know how good Cully was. So if you're getting the nod of approval from Cully, who's a Hurricane stalwart, you know you got something special.
I think one thing that I heard in his aftermatch speech, Ruben was talking about Nani Laumape's, how much of an influence Nani's having on him. And so we've talked around a lot with, his carry meters were unreal on the weekend. Nani had 150 odd meters his running game, and even tried to do some attacking kicks as well. But, his communication skills, that's one thing that I really listened to when Ruben said that. He said, all he said was, it's world-class communication, and he's given me all the info I need to be able to be with the team. So, when you've got a guy, we've talked about a lot around Nani's growth and around his game management and communication skills, you need that at 12. And I thought Nani was outstanding on the weekend with what he does best, which is running. But those little things that Ruben's talked about, his communication skills and his distribution skills as well, I think it's really helping Ruben Love in his maturity, being able to play at that 10 at this level.
The Aotearoa Rugby Pod Super Rugby Workhorse of the Week is brought to you by Farmlands. Now, Farmlands is committed to bringing rugby to the rural communities, like the Farmlands Cup earlier this year between the Crusaders and the Highlanders. You can also go down to Farmlands, get yourself some good wet weather gear, so when you're on the sidelines watching some footy, you're going to be in good, warm, not wet state. Workhorse of the Week.
I've got a couple of nominations, as I like to have. You've got to spread the love. And then I'll get to my winner. Believe it or not a Blues player this week. But for my Blues nomination, Adrian Choate. I thought, All Black Dylan Hunt out. Blake Gibson, been called into the All Blacks before. And Dalton Papali'i, he's out as well. He's in Form 7, potentially All Black 7 in time. But Adrian Choate, he was just everywhere. He was into everything. I think he split his head about 9 times, went off, came back on, went off, came back on, and just was into it. So he was a mighty workhorse. Chiefs, I thought Peter Gus Sowakula was, into everything, getting around, a few pick and goes through the middle, bit of offload game, good carries. I think you've got to mention Liam Messam as a workhorse coming back at 37. That definitely deserves a
lot of work.
Tip of the cap. And the Highlanders workhorse for me is Mitch Hunt, scrapping with Dane Coles. He's working hard to be doing that. But my winner is Hurricane 7, who had a massive shift. Duplessis, Karefi, massive at the breakdown, turnovers, great link play. One scored a try, but there was also great link play and a lot of offload games that led to other tries. Big in defence, good in the line-out, good in the scrum, so ticked all his core roles with a bit of flair, and just his passion and his effort to celebrate with his teammates when they did something well was exceptional. So it wasn't just celebrating his own moments, he celebrated his teammates' moments. So for my workhorse of the week, Duplessis Karifi.
That's great.
Out of the Hurricanes.
Out of the Hurricanes. And he's undersized for a loose forward. I know he's a power athlete, but he's undersized for a loose forward. So he has to work hard.
He does, and he's just hitting form. If he can carry this form on into the Trans-Tasman, talking about a lot of sevens, we've talked about Boucher, we've talked about Papali'i, we've talked about all these other sevens, but he is hitting some good form. Harmon hitting some good form, and a man that toured with the All Blacks, so he's in and around the mix already, and they do like to go back to their incumbents first. He's hitting some good form at a pretty good time before that All Black team is named.
Who have you got?
I've got a couple of nominations as well. I obviously talked around Dupes. He was outstanding on the weekend, so I definitely had one of him. But I actually want to go to his other Lucy mate, Devon Flanders. Is Devon? Is it Devon?
Yeah.
Yeah, Devon Flanders. But I thought he was outstanding on the weekend. He had 45 metres on 8 carries and had 4 defenders beaten.
Huge workhorse.
Yeah, well, he didn't have 45 carries, but he looked like he did after the game. He had 45 metres, with 8 carries and actually beat 4 defenders, which we talk around Artie Severe, around him being able to beat defenders with him being at number 8. I think he's been outstanding, especially on the weekend, but probably the last 2 weeks with Artie being out. I had Nani Lawapi as well. We talked around his metres and his numbers. He was outstanding on the weekend around not only his ball carrying ability, but his distribution, his communication skills from, obviously Ruben Love. And then I've got actually 3 Blues players, Jipper, that you actually pretty ready to pump them up, mate. I actually had Gerard Tuioti Mariner.
Yeah, nice.
I thought he was outstanding on the weekend, and just his dominance in the tackle. He's been real dominant in the tackle in probably the past fortnight, and he's just been really bringing up that line speed and real dominant hit. I'd love to see what his dominance stats are. You probably can get that for us next week, mate. Yeah, nice, 39%. There we go. So he's really for that Blues wall. Hit Zahn Sullivan again. I thought he was silky. Obviously. Talked around his kicking game. There's a few that got charged down, but he was always looking for that kicking space, and obviously great to score as well with his pace being able to be put away from Rieko Ioane, who put him away just nicely. And then I actually had Hoskins to Tutu, mate. I think he was massive, mate. And people probably see that he scored that try, being able to have a dominant scrum, which we talked around in that last 15 minutes. He scored that try. Xavier unfortunately won't get the Grammy Award or the Oscar Award, for trying to fake that try.
No, you won't.
But yeah, look, mate, he had 15 carries, 55 metres, and they were hard 55 metres, just working hard to get those metres, and had 11 passes, and that just comes back, we've talked around his distribution skills and being in the all-around player, and he had 1 turnover as well, mate. So my man is Hoskins Satutu.
Oh, he loves it. What I would like to say, workhorse of the week for me goes to you. That was some great stat chat.
That's good.
Good stats. The other person who was super entertaining on the weekend was Dane Coles.
Yeah.
His chat with the referees was it was worth the price of admission.
He is outstanding, isn't he? His niggle game lifts him and his team. And there was no surprise when he was off the field. There was definitely a dip in the Hurricane. I felt like the double yellow card affected the Canes. That's when the Highlanders sort of came back into the game, and then as soon as Colsey came back on the field, the normal service resumed. He just has that, that aura about him for his team. It's a follow me, no nonsense approach to everything, and he just fights for everything, and he just. I said before I was at the game, he just is in like a hunter mode. Just his body language, he's just constantly hunting the action. He's in and around the ball, and if he's on defence, he's in and around looking, make a tackle or get involved in the ruck or anything. He certainly has a hell of a presence when he's on the field.
Mitch Hunt thinks so.
Yeah, Mitch Hunt. I don't know. It was early on in the game that I think Mitch Hunt started the niggle. And I don't know if it was his smartest move, but you've got to admire his courage that he stuck to it. He didn't back down, and then it continued on. And I think that's where the yellow card came from. Is he was like, well, if I don't back down, this is going to be on all day. So he tried to stand up to it, and eventually ended a yellow card, and then I think things simmered down from there.
What did you think of those yellow cards? What did Colsey say? Oh, we're just having a bit of fun, ref, or something along those lines. You know, do you think that that's too much? Should there be a place where you can just rough guy up a little bit on the ground and maybe push him in the face, as long as it's in the nature of the game, Bryn?
You probably do need to have a little bit of discipline around it, because then, you know, players will be able to take that and run with that, you know, with niggle off the ball and, you know, cheap shots here and there, which, again, you want player safety at best. But I thought it was quite funny seeing Colsey and Hunty. They both knew that they were going to have a talking to with the ref, and, you know, they probably both would have said, oh, let's just cut it clean here. And, you know, obviously we've got in the wrong situation, but we'll just cut it there, be able to play on with 15 people. But, yeah, I think you've got to be able to have some formal laws around it, and, yeah. It's probably just we know that Dane that's his game, and it brings the best out of him. And but you do need to have some form of laws around it, because there'll be so much off the stuff that's off the ball, and then you start getting a little bit more dangerous if things off the ball happen. Not just that incident that happened on the weekend.
It escalates.
Yeah, I just think they're just trying to get rid of the grey area. There wasn't much to it. We all know there wasn't much to it, but if they let that slide, then they have to let another thing slide, and it becomes inconsistent. So I think it has to be black and white, and that's all they're just trying to keep true to that, and, you know, that's what they have to stick to, and that's their guidelines, and they're staying to it. And in the end, I don't think it ruined the spectacle, and it cleaned it up, because nothing happened after that.
Well, I mean, one of the key things right now is you do not touch the head. No matter what goes on, do not touch the head. And one guy's got an elbow in one, and the other one's pushing with two hands in the face of the other. It was completely brain-dead play, but they just thought they were having a laugh.
Oh, mate, they were after each other. Like it happened early, and it was relentless pursuit for one another after that.
I didn't know that Mitch Hunt had him in him. Do you see that at Crusaders training when he was with you guys? That kind of guts? Is that what you call it?
Courage.
Oh, he's fiery. He's a little man, so he's got that little man syndrome. So he's fiery. So no, he's always got it in him, and good on him. You know, the last thing you want to be doing is letting someone, you know, not try bully you, but, you know, try get the better of you. And, you know, it was great to see him stand up. So I've seen it plenty of times at trainings.
I think he started it, mate. I don't even think Colsey's. He went after Colsey, mate. It was a hell of an elbow. I'll give him the tip. So it was but that was about the fourth incident. There was about 3 others off the ball before that. It was good watching, because like we were watching it, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'd be doing that to Colsey.
And to Colsey's credit as well, you know, he obviously had a better earful from the Highlander boys and Hunty, and then when he scored his try, thinking maybe he's going to, he might just, you know, give the wee look at Hunty or the Highlander boys, saying, "Here we go, boys." But nah, good on him. He just ran back
to halfway.
Maturity, mate. That's maturity. He knows when to turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah. The chat that could have happened. I mean, you love a captain's challenge. That captain's challenge, can it ever be beaten? That was the best captain's challenge of all time.
I don't think so. I think the one the week before, I don't think Dalton would be in a hurry to rewatch that one of the shoulder charge one. I think Blues versus Highlanders, but that one there. Billy Harmon would be wanting that one back, I think.
Surely he had to have a word with his skipper before because the skipper's walking up going, "Well, challenge that." Billy Harmon must be going, "Oh no, don't."
Surely he suggested it.
It'll be a fine at the end here for him, that's for sure.
Whoever's idea it was. I just loved it how, like, because before we saw the replay and you knew Colsey was involved, you're like, oh no. Yeah. You almost thought there's another yellow here and it's a red. And then when it got reversed, I think we were texting, and it got reversed and it kicked to the corner. I go, if he scores here, give him the keys to the city, because it'll be unbelievable. And then he did. It was crazy.
It was amazing, just scoring off that particular passage. And the smile on his face, he didn't really bother having a chat with Ash Dixon.
He didn't need to.
He just had a look at him, gave him a smile, and went back to halfway as well. Was it Ben O'Keefe on that game? Yeah, he must have been laughing to himself there.
Internally, surely.
Yeah, boys, I can't give you that back. Can't give it to you at all. Yeah, so it's a phenomenal thing that Dane Coles is doing right now. Like, each year on year, we just see him carry on and get a little bit more in his game. Another way that he influences it. Like, you know, Cody Taylor came so strong at the start of the season. at the end of the season, it's like, oh, it's tough to go past Colsey again.
Yeah, I still think Cody's playing out of his skin as well, and so is Colsey. But I mean, we have this discussion every year between the two. They are hard to, pick between them, and it just depends on what style the All Blacks want to go with, and they probably will rotate between the two, and they'll have to, because they have to manage workloads as such. So I mean, it's a nice problem to have, and I don't think we can forget the next options. And Asafa Moore is doing a really good job off the bench. He provides a hell of an impact, and his growth in his core roles as well is doing really well. And then Samasoni Takiaho, I think his game and growth is exceptional. People have a little go at his throwing, but I think the Chiefs lineout is operating pretty well for how young the group is, and how much they're all having to grow together. And I always say it's an 8-man job, not just a 1-man job. So he's coming along really well as well. And I think Kurt Eklund the other night, he's come back from his little suspension, but he's certainly putting his hand up as well. So there's plenty to like around that hooker spot.
Poor Olasafo, these veterans continue to go so well. It's pretty difficult on him. He just has to keep on waiting, I suppose. I mean, it's pretty hard to knock the door down in front of those
I don't think
guys.
it's a bad thing at international level. I think biding your time and learning behind and making sure that when you get to that level you're ready, it gives you the best opportunity to perform and take your opportunity, rather than being thrown out there early and not nailing it and then being cast aside. So I honestly don't think it's a bad thing. And he'll be better for it. Just like Colsey had to wait, just like Cody had to wait, it'll be no different, and he'll be better for it. That type 5 position at international level is not a position you want to be rushed into.
We've had, Bryn, I know this isn't necessarily your area of expertise, but we've had some amazing 1-2 punches at hooker. I think of Andrew Hoare and Kevin Mialamu, then Kevin Mialamu and Dan Coles, and now we've got these two guys. Are these two, possibly the most skillful combination of hookers that we've ever had? Is this the best 1-2 punch that we've had?
I'll take this.
He's fired up.
I think so, because I think Colsey was the player that changed the hooking role, and then a guy like Cody's followed that blueprint, and then we've got guys like Asafa who's almost taken it another level in terms of his dynamic power and skill set, and then you got those guys that I've just mentioned as well. So I think they've changed a generation, these two. And these two are the first sort of 1-2 punch of that style. But the game will change again, and then there'll be another. We always say this: is there going to be, another this player, but then another one does come. And that's the beauty of our country and the sport. We love it, and there's so many players that want to be the next so-and-so, that they put a lot of time and effort and determination to being that they eventually get there.
That's the interesting thing about Asafa is he's half Jonah Lomu, half hooker, and whoever thought that a hooker should be this good in the wing?
I was watching him warm up, and he's got the same stature as Kevy. Honestly, he reminds me so much of Kevy, but he's just got the power of a winger.
So we've got a big weekend. We've got this final coming up now. Is it Crusaders all day long?
No, I don't think it is. I think it'll be a tight battle. I am interested to see where they play Mackenzie. I think that'll be a key role. And does he add another string to his bow, which I think he does have the ability to, because he played really calm, composed that first 50, and then once he moved back, then he brought that. They do have a blueprint. They've done it. They know they can do it. Yes, it's a bigger job down there. It's a final. They haven't been there, yes, but they've got the ability to do so. But the Crusaders they've got a proven formula. They've got a great record. Statistically, they should do it. But stats only to tell half the picture. So I think it's going to be a great final. It's the right final, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Are they still the favourites for you, Bryn?
Mate, 100%. Just on another note though, but I think it's a great opportunity. I think if you take away Super Rugby Aotearoa last year, where we probably didn't get the opportunity to have a final, I think it's going to be great to actually be able to play a New Zealand team in a final. So probably the last couple of years before that, we're playing against, two against South African teams, the Lions, Jaguares, which is a great test. But I think, having a New Zealand final and having that kind of stage, it just adds a little bit more to it. So, it's going to be an exciting time, and hopefully it's a sellout, and hopefully it's a -2 degrees in Christchurch, kind of 7:05.
As the dynasty goes on, one of the great sporting dynasties, really, we should probably take a second just to appreciate that before this final happens. If they win or don't win, 4 titles in a row, you don't see that in sport. We hear of 3-peats, but 4, possibly 5 championships in a row, it's something spectacular.
Oh, it's exceptional. And I'm not even joking. Like, I think we do acknowledge how successful they have been, and how tough it is to do it time and time again, and to turn up and deliver at a standard for a team that every other team wants to beat every weekend. It's amazing the standard they keep themselves to keep delivering week in, week out. And yep, they've had some slip-ups this year and been tested, but they're still there at the final, and they've still got a home one. So credit to them, and as I said, I'm looking forward to the challenge that they face on the weekend, but I still believe that they go in as the favourites.
Are you aware of how big a thing you guys are in the middle of now? I suppose you don't want to reflect on it too much, but you're in the middle of something quite special.
Yeah, I think you have a certain idea. I think it's probably when you finish that season, you reflect, and you do kind of start thinking around the achievements that have happened. But I guess for us in this kind of mode and the kind of time that we are now, we don't really think about that. All we kind of think about is getting the week right and really embracing it and enjoying the week. I think, as rugby players, these are the best times of your life when you be able to be in finals. And yes, we've been lucky, probably like the previous 4 to be there. But anytime you get an opportunity to be in a final for something that you put so much hard work in, you've got to embrace that and accept that and enjoy that. So, we don't ever take it for granted. We love for the fact that we're at home. Home is big for us to be able to play in front of our people and our fans, which give us so much enjoyment. So it's an exciting time for us. And look, we just can't wait to get ready to go on Saturday night. We'll get our week right and get everything done, tick all the boxes that we need to, and then going to go up against the form team in the comp, and really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Bryn Hall down in Christchurch. James Parsons, you got something else to add?
I just want to say, don't say you're lucky, mate. It takes a lot of hard work, discipline and sacrifice that gets you there 4 times, now 5. So I think you deserve everything you get.
Including maybe a couple more tattoos.